The first time Amelia Reyes met Ethan Caldwell, she was holding 3 textbooks, a coffee cup, and the last ounce of her patience. The coffee didn't survive. "Watch where you're going," she hissed as her caramel latte splashed across a crisp white designer shirt that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Ethan blinked down at the stain, more confused than angry. He looked exactly like the kind of guy who'd never had a bad day in his life, sharp jawline, expensive watch, and the kind of easy smirk that screamed trust fund. A small crowd of students slowed down, sensing drama. Sorry," he said, though he didn't sound remotely sorry. "I didn't think anyone would be walking that fast around a corner." "Some of us have places to be," Amelia shot back, clutching her wet notes with a groan. "You could try looking up from your phone once in a while." That got a few laughs from the bystanders. Ethan's jaw tightened, but before he could reply, Amelia spun on her heel and disappeared into the crowd. She had no time for rich boys with entitlement issues, not when she was already late for her work-study shift at the library. Later that day, Ethan was still thinking about her. It wasn't the coffee or the embarrassment that stuck with him, it was that she'd walked away. No one ever did that. People fawned, laughed at his jokes, or tried to get close to him for his last name. But that girl. She'd looked right through him like he was just another student. He didn't even know her name. Amelia collapsed into the last empty seat in the library's tutoring section, rubbing her temples. She'd been up since 6, attended 2 lectures, spilled her coffee, and was now scheduled to tutor 3 undergrads before dinner. Her scholarship required her to maintain top grades and volunteer hours, and she couldn't afford to slip. "Reyes," a familiar voice drawled. "Guess we meet again." She froze. Slowly, she looked up and there he was. Coffee stain guy. Wearing a new shirt. And that same smug grin. "Oh no," she muttered. "You've got to be kidding me." Apparently not. Ethan dropped his backpack onto the chair beside her. "Professor Hale said you're my new econ tutor." "Congratulations." Amelia's mouth fell open. "You're Ethan Caldwell?" "Last I checked." He leaned back, casual and infuriating. "And you're the scholarship prodigy everyone talks about." "Kind of ironic, huh?" "Ironic would be you actually showing up on time for once," she said, flipping open her notebook. "Let's get this over with." He chuckled, low and surprised. "You really don't like me." "I don't know you," she corrected. "But I can already tell you talk more than you listen." For a moment, something shifted in his expression, a flicker of honesty, almost vulnerable. Then the smirk returned. "Guess we'll have to spend a lot of time together so you can change your mind." Amelia sighed. "That's what I'm afraid of." As they began the lesson, Ethan struggled to focus. She explained supply and demand curves with quiet authority, tapping her pen on the margin of his notes. She was patient, sharp, and utterly unimpressed by him. Every sarcastic comment he threw her way bounced right off. For the first time, Ethan felt something he didn't recognize: interest. Not in her grades, not in her resume, but in her fire. And Amelia, though she would never admit it, noticed that behind the arrogance was someone who looked a little lonely. Neither of them said a word about it. But as the library lights flickered and the sun dipped below the campus clock tower, the first chapter of something unexpected had quietly begun. By the second tutoring session, Amelia had decided that Ethan Caldwell was both hopeless at economics and annoyingly good at distracting her. He strolled into the library like it was a fashion runway, designer sneakers, messy golden hair, and a grin that probably worked on every girl except her. Unfortunately, that grin had also worked on the librarian, who waved him in despite his drink, a triple espresso, of course. "You know," Amelia said as he sat down across from her, "they don't allow coffee in here." He leaned back in his chair, utterly unbothered. "Rules are more like guidelines, don't you think? Tell that to your GPA." That earned a laugh from a nearby student. Ethan smirked but obediently set his cup aside. "So," he said, flipping open his econ textbook, "today we're tackling, whatever this is." "Supply elasticity," Amelia replied crisply. "And no, it's not a gym term." He groaned. "Fantastic. My 2 favorite words, supply and elasticity." She couldn't help a small smile. "You'll live." An hour later, he still hadn't quite grasped the concept, But something had shifted. He wasn't teasing her as much, he was asking questions, actually trying. Every time she explained something, he'd look at her like he was seeing the world in a new way. Amelia felt the change too. He was still cocky, but in between his jokes and complaints, she caught glimpses of sincerity. He wasn't dumb, just unfocused. Like no one had ever asked him to care about learning before. So, she said, testing him. If the price of coffee beans goes up. He interrupted, grinning. Don't mention coffee. Then the supply curve shifts to the left, she continued, ignoring him, because production costs rise. Meaning that my caffeine addiction becomes more expensive, he guessed. She almost laughed. Close enough. He chuckled, eyes bright. That's a win in my book. After their session, Amelia packed up her things quickly. She had a shift at the campus cafe in 20 minutes, and she couldn't afford to be late. Ethan noticed the way she hurried, the faded backpack strap she'd sewn twice, the dark circles under her eyes. Do you ever take a break? He asked. Only when I'm asleep. Sounds exhausting. She shrugged. Welcome to scholarship life. He hesitated. You could. I don't know, let me buy you dinner sometime. As a thank you for tutoring me. Amelia froze, caught between amusement and disbelief. You think I'm going to fall for that? He raised his hands. No flirting, I swear. Just food. You have to eat, right? She studied him for a moment. He looked genuinely sincere, not like the rich boy who thought money solved everything. But she couldn't afford to blur lines, she'd worked too hard to earn her place here. I appreciate it, she said finally, but no thanks. I've got it covered. He looked surprised, then nodded slowly. You really don't let anyone help you, do you? That's kind of the point. Later that night, as Amelia wiped down tables at the cafe, she caught a familiar voice at the counter. Triple espresso, to go, Ethan said, grinning like he knew exactly what he was doing. She rolled her eyes but took his order anyway. You know you're not supposed to follow your tutor to work, right? Who said I followed you? Maybe this is my new favorite cafe. Right. And maybe I believe that. He smiled, softer this time. You should try believing good things once in a while, Reyes. Something about the way he said it gently, without teasing, made her chest feel strangely warm. She handed him his drink, careful not to touch his hand. Good night, Caldwell. Night, tutor girl. As he left, she caught herself smiling. Just a little. By the third week of tutoring, Amelia's life had settled into a rhythm. Classes, work, tutoring, and a growing list of reasons why Ethan Caldwell was infuriatingly hard to dislike. He'd started showing up on time, sometimes even early. He brought her snacks, claiming it was bribery in the name of higher education. And somehow, between sarcastic remarks and shared laughter, he'd gone from her most difficult student to the best part of her day. Of course, not everyone on campus saw it that way. Reyes, whispered her roommate, Jess, one morning as they walked to class. You didn't tell me you were tutoring that Ethan Caldwell. Amelia frowned, clutching her coffee. What's that supposed to mean? Jess raised an eyebrow. You seriously don't know? His family owns Caldwell Industries. The guy practically lives on Forbes lists. And now there are rumors that you two are. Stop right there. Amelia groaned. We're not anything. He's my student. Jess smirked. Sure. You just happen to meet him at the library and your cafe job every night. That's because he's failing economics, Amelia said firmly. And because he drinks more coffee than a human should. Jess giggled. MHM. Just be careful, okay? Guys like him play in different leagues. Amelia didn't reply, but the warning lingered in her mind longer than she wanted it to. That evening, the library was unusually quiet. Rain tapped softly against the tall windows as Amelia waited for Ethan, spreading out her notes. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. She told herself she didn't care, but she checked her phone anyway. Finally, he rushed in, hair damp, hoodie slightly askew. Sorry, he panted, setting his bag down. Got caught in the rain. You're late, she said automatically. Then she noticed he was shivering. And soaked. Oh, 4 here. She rummaged in her bag and pulled out a spare sweatshirt. He looked surprised. You keep extra clothes in your bag. When you work as much as I do, you learn to be prepared. She tossed it to him. Just don't get it dirty. He grinned faintly. I'll try not to spill coffee this time. They worked side by side, the soft hum of rain filling the silence. Ethan was quieter tonight, more focused. When he struggled with a formula, he didn't crack a joke, he asked questions until he got it right. Amelia found herself admiring his effort and his persistence. You know, she said, glancing up, you're actually improving. He smiled, genuine and a little proud. Coming from you, that means something. She laughed. Don't get used to it. I'm serious. His tone softened. I didn't think I'd care about this stuff. But you make it. I don't know. Make sense. And kind of fun. Her cheeks warmed. She looked down at her notebook, pretending to write. That's my job. Still, he said quietly, thanks. For a long moment, they just sat there, two students from completely different worlds, listening to the rain. The next day, though, reality came crashing back. As Amelia walked across campus, she overheard whispers trailing behind her. Isn't that the girl tutoring Caldwell? Yeah. Word is, they've been spending a lot of time together. I heard he bought her a designer bag. Amelia's stomach twisted. Unbelievable. By the time she reached the library, Ethan was already there, waiting and smiling as if nothing was wrong. What's with the look? He asked when he saw her expression. She dropped her bag onto the table. Apparently, you and I are the latest campus gossip. He blinked. What? People think she waved her hands helplessly, buying me things or that we're together. Ethan frowned. I didn't start that. I know, she sighed. But rumors spread fast. I can't afford anyone thinking I'm getting special treatment. He hesitated, guilt flickering across his face. Then I'll fix it. How? He shrugged. I'll tell people the truth, that you'd never date me in a million years. Amelia arched a brow. That's inaccurate. He grinned. See? Problem solved. Despite herself, she laughed. The tension broke. You're impossible. And you're stuck with me, he said, his smile turning soft. At least until finals. She rolled her eyes, but her heart gave a tiny, traitorous flutter. Amelia told herself it wasn't a date. It was tutoring. Strictly tutoring. Yes, it was happening at the campus cafe instead of the library. Yes, Ethan had texted let's change things up my treat, smiley face, with an obnoxious smiley face. And yes, she'd actually straightened her hair before going. But it was not a date. At least, that's what she repeated to herself for the 10th time as she walked in and spotted him at the corner booth, waving. Ethan looked different. Less polished, more real. He wore a dark hoodie and jeans, his usual smug grin replaced with something almost shy. In front of him sat 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. You're late, he teased as she sat down. You said 7. She checked her phone, 7:01. Exactly. He pushed 1 mug toward her. Hot chocolate. Not coffee. I remembered you said caffeine keeps you up all night. Amelia blinked, a little taken aback. He'd listened. Thanks, she said softly, taking a sip. Sweet. Warm. Perfect. So, what are we working on tonight? Honestly, he said, leaning on his elbows. I was hoping for a night off. I passed my quiz. Her eyes widened. You what? He grinned and held up his phone, showing her the grade, 84%. Okay, Caldwell, she said, smiling despite herself. That's actually impressive. I know. You're a miracle worker. I prefer competent tutor. Fine, he said with a laugh. You're a competent miracle worker. They spent the next hour talking more than studying, about classes, about growing up, about everything and nothing. Ethan told her about his father, who was constantly traveling, and his mother, who threw charity galas but never came to campus events. Amelia talked about her family back home, her mom who worked double shifts at a diner, her younger brother who texted her memes during lectures, her fear of losing her scholarship. For the first time, Ethan didn't try to make a joke. He just listened. You ever get tired of people assuming things about you? She asked quietly. All the time, he admitted. They see the money, the name. Not me. She nodded. Yeah. People see scholarship student and assume I'm some charity case. He smiled, faintly. Guess we both know what it's like to be underestimated. Something gentle passed between them then, unspoken, fragile, real. The spell broke when the cafe door opened, and a familiar voice called out. Ethan. Dude, there you are. Amelia turned to see a tall guy in a varsity jacket approaching. Ethan stiffened. Amelia, this is Brandon, he said. We went to prep school together. Brandon gave her a once-over, his grin smug. So you're the tutor? Didn't think you were Ethan's type. Amelia's stomach twisted. Excuse me? Brandon laughed. Relax, I'm kidding. It's just, you don't exactly run in the same circles. Ethan's voice turned sharp. Brandon. But the damage was done. Amelia stood abruptly. I should go. Amelia, wait. She shook her head. It's fine. I have an early shift tomorrow. And before he could say another word, she was gone, leaving behind her half-empty mug and the faint scent of vanilla shampoo. Later that night, Ethan sat alone in the cafe, staring at the empty seat across from him. He didn't know why her leaving hurt so much, but it did. Maybe because she was the first person who saw him, not the money, not the name. And now, thanks to someone like Brandon, he'd ruined that fragile bit of trust. Pulling out his phone, he typed out a message. Ethan, I'm sorry about earlier. He was out of line. Ethan, please don't quit tutoring me. He stared at the screen, waiting. Minutes passed. Finally, her reply came. Amelia, you didn't do anything wrong. See you tomorrow. He exhaled, relief flooding through him. But the message still felt distant. Something had changed tonight. And Ethan knew it wasn't going to be as simple as another tutoring session to fix it. By Monday morning, Ethan had a plan. Amelia had been polite but distant in their messages all weekend, answering every text with the efficiency of a customer service chatbot. He missed her sarcasm, her laughter, even the way she rolled her eyes at his bad jokes. He couldn't undo Brandon's arrogance, but he could at least show her he cared enough to try. Okay, he muttered to himself as he walked into the library, balancing a cardboard box. Operation Apology Project begins. Amelia was already there, hair pulled into a loose bun, pen tapping rhythmically against her notebook. She looked up, surprised. Caldwell, she said cautiously. Why are you carrying an entire box? Peace offering, he said, setting it on the table. Inside were color-coded flashcards, a stack of printouts, and most importantly a takeout container from her favorite cafe. Amelia blinked. You brought me study supplies? And dinner, he said. Chicken pesto sandwich. No onions, extra tomato. I asked the barista. Her lips twitched. You memorized my lunch order? He shrugged, trying to look casual. I have a good memory when I care about something. She arched an eyebrow. Flattery isn't going to earn you extra credit. Not flattery, he said softly. Just truth. For a moment, silence settled between them. The tension that had hovered since Friday began to ease, replaced by something warmer. Fine, she said finally, opening the sandwich box. But we're still studying. You're behind on the midterm material. Yes, he said with mock obedience. As they worked, Ethan found himself oddly focused not just on the equations, but on her expressions, the way she bit her lip while explaining a formula, the way her eyes lit up when he finally got something right. Halfway through the session, she noticed the flashcards. Did you actually make these yourself? He nodded proudly. Each color represents a concept. Green for graphs, yellow for definitions, blue for trick questions. She flipped through them, impressed. These are actually really good. Don't sound so shocked, he teased. Turns out I'm capable of effort. She laughed quietly, and the sound hit him like sunlight after a storm. When their session ended, Amelia began to pack up, but Ethan hesitated. Hey, Reyes. Yeah. I'm sorry. About Brandon. About how people talk. I should have said something sooner. She paused. You did nothing wrong. It's just, people love to make assumptions. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be. He looked at her earnestly. You work harder than anyone I know. You deserve better than rumors. Her chest tightened. Ethan. He smiled faintly. It's okay. I just wanted you to know I get it. Really. There was something about the way he said her name, carefully, sincerely, that made her heart stumble. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. Tutors didn't get crushes on their students. Scholarship girls didn't fall for billionaire heirs. And yet, sitting across from him, she couldn't remember why those rules had ever mattered. Later, as she walked back to her dorm, Amelia couldn't stop smiling. She told herself it was because of the sandwich, or the progress he'd made, or the flashcards, definitely not because of his smile when she'd said goodbye. But when she reached her door, she found a small sticky note attached to her bag. Neat handwriting. A familiar scrawl. Thank you for not giving up on me. E.C. She stood there for a long time, heart fluttering. Maybe, just maybe, Ethan Caldwell was more than he seemed. Midterms had arrived, and with them came chaos. The library was packed, caffeine was flowing like water, and Amelia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with desperate messages from students begging for last-minute tutoring. But the only one that made her smile was Ethan's. Ethan, I think I just accidentally understood the law of diminishing returns. Ethan, please tell me this means I'm a genius. She laughed to herself and typed back quickly. Amelia, it means you're slightly less hopeless than before. Ethan, I'll take it. For all his teasing, Ethan was doing better than she expected. He showed up prepared, stayed focused, and even helped other students when she was too busy. Watching him work hard made her chest ache in a way she didn't want to name. That afternoon, rain started to fall, soft at first, then in sheets. By the time Amelia finished her shift at the cafe, the streets were slick, and her umbrella was useless against the wind. She was halfway across campus when headlights flashed beside her and a car horn blared. Reyes. Ethan's voice. She turned to see him leaning out the window of a sleek black car, his, obviously. You'll catch pneumonia, he called. I'm fine, she shouted back, rain dripping down her face. You're soaked. Get in. No. But he was already pulling over, jogging toward her with an umbrella. His hoodie was instantly drenched. Ethan, you're ridiculous, she said, trying not to laugh. Maybe, he said, holding the umbrella over her head. But at least one of us is staying dry now. They ended up taking shelter in the student union lounge, both dripping water onto the tile floor. Ethan offered her his hoodie again, and though she protested, she accepted. It was warm and smelled faintly like coffee and cedar. He sat beside her, hair messy from the rain. So, this is what you do for fun? Run around campus during thunderstorms? Only when I can't afford an Uber, she said, smiling wryly. He frowned. You really shouldn't have to walk everywhere. I could. Don't. He stopped. She sighed. You can't just fix everything with money, Ethan. That's not how my world works. I know, he said quietly. I just hate that you have to struggle so much. She looked at him then, and something in his eyes, raw, genuine concern, made her heart squeeze. You don't have to save me, she said softly. Just be my friend. He smiled faintly. I can do that. They talked until the rain slowed to a drizzle. About little things, movies, favorite songs, her dream of teaching, his secret fear of disappointing his father. Every time he opened up, she saw more of the person beneath the privilege. When she finally stood to leave, he offered to walk her back. You sure you don't mind? She asked. He grinned. What kind of friend would I be if I let you drown out here? They walked side by side under the same umbrella, laughter spilling between raindrops. When they reached her dorm steps, neither of them moved right away. Thanks, she said quietly. For the umbrella. For being you. The real you. He looked at her, rainlight glimmering in his eyes. You make it easier to be that version of me. Amelia's breath caught, and for one dizzy second, she thought he might kiss her. But he didn't. He just smiled and said, Good night, Reyes. As she watched him walk away, Her heart beat far too fast for friendship. That night, lying in bed, Amelia stared at the ceiling, replaying his smile in her mind. Maybe it was the rain, or maybe it was the way he'd looked at her, but something inside her had shifted. She wasn't sure what came next. Only that she didn't want it to end. By the time midterms ended, the campus felt lighter, laughter in the quads, music spilling from open dorm windows, students reclaiming their social lives. For Amelia, though, relaxation wasn't an option. She had 2 papers due, a shift at the cafe, and 3 new students on her tutoring roster. Her planner looked like a battlefield. So when Ethan showed up at her table in the library, grinning like trouble, she didn't even look up. Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is no. You don't even know the question yet, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. I can feel the chaos radiating from you. He laughed. Okay, fine. There's a small party at my friend's house tonight. Music, snacks, a break from your monk-like study schedule. She gave him a flat look. Do I look like a party girl? You look like someone who hasn't smiled properly in a week, he said gently. Come on. 1 hour. No studying, no flashcards. Amelia hesitated. A party with Ethan Caldwell sounded like a recipe for disaster, or at least for campus gossip part 2. But when he smiled that hopeful, dimpled smile, her no wavered. 1 hour, she said, pointing a finger at him. And if it gets weird, I'm leaving. Deal. The house was already buzzing when they arrived, soft lights strung across the patio, pop music pulsing faintly through open doors, laughter drifting into the night. It wasn't wild, but it was very not her scene. Amelia hovered near the snack table, clutching a cup of soda, while Ethan mingled easily with friends. He looked so at home here, laughing and joking, the kind of confident charm that drew people in. And yet, every few minutes, his gaze found hers, a quiet reassurance that she wasn't forgotten. Having fun? He asked eventually, slipping beside her. I'm observing, she said dryly. He chuckled. Observation is fun adjacent. They moved outside, away from the noise. The air was cool, the city lights glittering in the distance. Do you ever feel like you're living 2 lives? She asked softly. The one people see and the one that's actually you? He glanced at her, surprised. All the time. She smiled faintly. You hide it well. I've had practice, he admitted. It's easier to wear a mask than to explain why you don't fit into the one people built for you. Amelia nodded. Same. They fell quiet for a moment, the hum of the party fading into the background. Then Ethan said, You know, I'm glad you came. I'm still deciding if that was a mistake. He laughed softly. It wasn't. His hand brushed hers, light, accidental, but enough to make her pulse skip. She should have pulled away. She didn't. Inside, someone shouted his name. He turned, just as Brandon appeared with a smirk and a red cup. Caldwell. Didn't think you'd bring your tutor as a +1. Ethan's expression darkened. Don't start. Brandon smirked. Relax, man. Just surprised. She's cute, though. Didn't think she'd be your type. Amelia stiffened, old embarrassment flaring. But before she could speak, Ethan's voice cut through the noise, low, sharp, certain. She's not my type, Brandon. She's my friend. The best one I've got. Brandon blinked, then shrugged and walked off. Ethan turned to Amelia, sighing. I'm sorry. Again. But she wasn't angry this time. You didn't have to say that. Yeah, I did, he said, meeting her eyes. You deserve better than people who treat you like a story to tell. Her heart thudded painfully. You really mean that? He smiled faintly. Every word. When he drove her back to the dorms later, the air between them felt different, quieter, but charged with something unspoken. At her door, she hesitated. Thanks for tonight, she said softly. Thanks for coming, he replied. Even if you did spend half the night judging everyone's dance moves. She laughed, and he grinned. But as she reached for the handle, he added, voice gentle, Hey, you know I meant what I said, right? You matter, Amelia. Not because of your grades, or your job, or your scholarship. Just because you're you. Her throat tightened. You're getting sappy, Caldwell. Don't tell anyone, he whispered. As she closed the door, she leaned against it, heart racing. For the first time, she wasn't sure what scared her more, falling for Ethan, or realizing she already was. Campus felt different after the party, quieter, somehow. Or maybe it was just that Amelia couldn't stop hearing Ethan's voice in her head, "You matter, just because you're you." She tried to bury herself in work, but her focus scattered every time her phone buzzed with one of his messages. "Ethan, survived my marketing presentation. I owe it all to my favorite tutor. Amelia, your only tutor. Ethan, still my favorite." The truth was simple and terrifying, she'd fallen for him. A week later, Professor Hale announced the final economics project, pairs only, worth a third of the grade. Before she could even process the details, Ethan was already at her desk. "Reyes," he said, grinning, "we make a great team. Partner up." She hesitated. Working together on a project meant more hours, more excuses to see him, and more chances to lose control of her heart. But she couldn't resist that hopeful spark in his eyes. "Fine," she said. "But I'm picking the topic." He pretended to groan. "You're so bossy." "Efficient," she corrected. "Now sit down and start researching." The following days were a blur of brainstorming sessions, messy notes, and laughter. They met in the library, the cafe, even the quad under a tree when the weather was warm. Ethan brought snacks. Amelia brought structure. Together, somehow, they worked. One afternoon, as they huddled over his laptop, their hands brushed on the keyboard. Neither of them moved. He looked up. "You ever wish we'd met differently?" She blinked. "Differently? Not as tutor and student. Maybe just, two people at the same place, same time." Her heart stuttered. Would it have changed anything? "Maybe," he said softly. "Maybe not. But I'd still have wanted to know you." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed, Jess again. "Meet me ASAP. Urgent." She frowned. "I have to go. We'll finish this later, okay?" Ethan nodded, but his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Jess was waiting outside the dorms, phone in hand, face pale. "Amelia, you need to see this." On her screen was a photo posted to the campus gossip page, Ethan and Amelia sitting close in the library, smiling at each other. The caption read, "Scholarship girl lands a billionaire. #tutor goals #lovey and loans." Amelia's stomach dropped. "Oh no." Jess bit her lip. "I swear, I didn't." "I know," Amelia said quickly. "But people are going to talk. Again." By the next morning, the whispers were everywhere. Some were cruel, others mocking. It didn't matter. All Amelia felt was the weight of it, the fear of losing her scholarship, of being judged, of proving every assumption right. She skipped tutoring that afternoon. Ethan found her sitting alone on the steps of the library after dark, eyes red from crying. "Amelia," he said softly. She didn't look up. "You should go. This is exactly the kind of drama I can't afford." He sat beside her anyway. "I don't care about rumors." "I do," she said, voice shaking. "I worked for years to get here. One mistake and everything I've built disappears. I can't be the girl who got distracted by the billionaire's son." He was quiet for a long time. Then, quietly, "You're not a distraction, Amelia. You're the only thing that's felt real to me in a long time." Her breath caught. He turned toward her, rain beginning to fall in soft misty drops. "You told me once not to fix things with money. So let me fix this with honesty instead." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the old sticky note she'd once found, creased, but still legible. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Because of you," he said, voice unsteady, "I stopped coasting. I started trying. I don't care who knows that I like you. But I'll stop if it hurts you." Amelia stared at him, heart pounding. You like me?" He smiled faintly. "Yeah. Kind of a lot." For a moment, the world was just rain, breath, and the soft hum of city lights. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have said that." "Probably not." She met his eyes, and something inside her broke free. "Because now I can't stop liking you back." He laughed, a quiet, disbelieving sound, and when she smiled through the rain, it felt like the first sunrise after a storm. They didn't kiss, not yet. It wasn't time. But when their hands found each other, fingers interlacing, it was a promise unspoken but certain. The rumors burned bright for a week and then, like most campus gossip, they faded. Amelia kept her head down, focused on finishing her work. Ethan respected her space, but she could feel him watching from across lecture halls, quiet and patient. They still had to finish their project, and that meant one last meeting in the library, the place where it had all started. When Amelia arrived, Ethan was already there, surrounded by notes, diagrams, and a half-eaten bag of pretzels. "You brought snacks and notes," she said, setting down her laptop. "Who are you, and what have you done with Ethan Caldwell?" He smiled. "Maybe I'm turning into someone who actually deserves an A." She laughed, tension easing instantly. For the next 2 hours, they worked in easy rhythm, trading ideas, editing slides, occasionally arguing over fonts. It felt normal. Comfortable. Almost too comfortable. When they finally submitted the project online, a message popped up, "Submission received." Ethan leaned back, sighing with relief. "We did it." Amelia smiled. "We did." But neither of them moved to leave. The air between them was full of things left unsaid. "Amelia," he said quietly, "can I tell you something without you running off this time?" She looked at him, heart skipping. "Depends on what it is." He laughed softly. "It's about next semester. My dad wants me to take an internship at Caldwell Industries. It's in New York. I haven't said yes yet." Her smile faltered. "That's amazing, Ethan. You should go." "I don't know." He rubbed the back of his neck. "It feels like the old version of me doing what's expected, not what I actually want." "What do you want?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked at her, eyes steady and open. "You." The word landed between them like a heartbeat. She froze, pulse hammering. "Ethan." "I know," he said quickly. "You've got goals, responsibilities, and you don't want distractions. But this isn't about distracting you. It's about being on your side while you reach everything you've worked for." Her throat tightened. "You don't make this easy." "I'm not trying to." His smile was gentle. "I'm trying to be honest." She stared at him for a long moment, this boy who'd once been all arrogance and privilege, now sitting before her with genuine humility and warmth. Then, slowly, she said, "You're an impossible person to say no to, you know that." He grinned. "So that's a maybe." "It's a yes," she admitted, laughing through the rush of relief. "But only if you promise to pass your finals." He reached for her hand. "Deal." They didn't kiss in the library. They didn't need to. Just sitting there, hands entwined among stacks of books and half-empty coffee cups, felt like everything had come full circle. Final grades came out a week later. Ethan had passed with a B+. He sent her a screenshot with a single line. "Ethan, I couldn't have done it without you." Her reply was instant. "Amelia, you did it because you believed you could." He showed up at the cafe that evening, hair wind-tousled, smile brighter than she'd ever seen. "You ready for summer?" he asked. She nodded. "You." "I am now." He stepped closer, just enough that she could smell the faint coffee on his breath. "I was thinking maybe, if you're not too busy saving the academic world, we could start that new life you were talking about. The one that isn't about expectations." Amelia smiled up at him. "You mean the one where you buy me dinner after finals instead of before?" He laughed, and this time, when she rose on her toes and kissed him, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. The rain had stopped outside. The world smelled like new beginnings. For once, Amelia didn't worry about tomorrow, or grades, or what people might say. She only knew this: she'd found something rare, someone who saw her exactly as she was, and who wanted to stay. And for Ethan Caldwell, the billionaire's son who once thought money could buy anything, she had taught him the one lesson that mattered most. Some things are priceless. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.